Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It is Thursday, July 28th. Sorry, the show's coming out late. Things have been a little crazy, and we are here, and we are excited for DGLO, the Great Lakes Open, coming up this weekend. We'll talk about it today, and we will also talk with Nate Heinold, the TD, as well as the TD of Ledgestone and the president of the board of directors of the PDGA. So always great to catch up with Nate. Josh, how are you? How are you feeling? You hanging in there?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm tired. I'm really tired. Sleeping a lot. And then the most comfortable spot right now is just laying on the floor. It's like everything feels achy, but I don't have it as bad as others have had, so I'm not going to complain.
Savasana yoga, lie on the floor. It's whatever helps. We hope you get better as quickly as possible.
Appreciate
it. And we're in a wave right now, folks. It's definitely happening once again. And everyone is so tired of this. I know that I am. I'm sure that you are. All right. Today, we're obviously going to talk DGLO. We are also going to talk a little bit more about the European Open. We got some mail, and we're going to dive into our mailbag. So why don't we begin with that? Josh, I'll let you do the honors and pull out the first piece of mail.
Yeah, I want to pull out an email from Jason first. He says, no mention of how the Beast is just not a ladies' course at all. Wasn't fun to watch. Women getting double to quintuple bogeys. I get Josh and yourself. See, the European Open is doing no wrong, but something needs to be done. I think this is an email that kind of hits the nail on the head. We didn't talk a lot about that, about the fact that this course is not really designed for women. And we, I think, are incredibly critical of courses that aren't designed for women. I'm going to say that that's the case for two reasons. Number one is it's something that is kind of regular in Europe at this point. A lot of European courses don't have the same kind of development for the FPO side of the game. That's not an excuse. I think that there more needs to be done. But that the stages of development of the FPO game in Europe just aren't at the same level. PCS Sula Open had, I think, 7 women or something entered, less than 10. So, that's the one problem. The second problem, though, is the limitations on space and access to that course. It isn't a permanent course, that it's on a public land, and so their ability to access and redesign and make those changes, I know, is somewhat limited. Both are, I think, some mitigating factors, but you're absolutely right. This course is not designed for the FPO game as well as it should be. And while I think that having a major like the European Open that is long and stretches distance for women is a good complement to this year's WUSDGC, or excuse me, Women's Disc Golf, not USDGC.
U.S. Women's Disc Golf
U.S. Women's. I knew my acronym was right.
It's a brutal acronym.
It's a brutal acronym. The Women's Disc Golf Championship. It's a nice compliment. I do think it does need to be reformatted better in order to ensure that, while maybe not scoring close to MPO side, that the scoring is better than what it was.
Look, I first of all, I don't think the European Open can do no wrong. I think it's a very well-run event that deserves the hype. When you have, all these people coming out. I mean, I had somebody text me and say, you have to get over here for the European Open and just experience this tournament in person. This is not me hyping it up. This is somebody that texted me and said this to me. Okay. So I think the tournament deserves the hype. Now, that said, the reason we didn't talk about this on Tuesday is because I'm not going to suck up a bunch of oxygen out of a reaction show on a Tuesday when we just watched incredible disc golf for 4 days. And, you're not wrong. The course is not, it's just not tuned for FPO. I mean, it's an MPO course that they say, hey, FPO, give it your best shot. Yeah. Now, there are sometimes there's benefits to that, like when Evelina shoots the way that she did in round 2, and then you go down the list and you say, well, look at all these MPO players who got wrecked by Evelina today. That's kind of fun. But overall, I totally agree. I don't really think this model makes sense. I understand that maybe some very top level players like Paige, maybe like Evelina, are like, hey, I like it. I want the course to be this hard. I want to feel like I'm able to compare myself directly to MPO players on the layout. But to me, overall, I feel like that's not the ideal test of FPO disc golf, and it's not the ideal. Just the scores alone just don't feel good. Like watching people take multiple triple bogeys every round is not fun. It's like you can say all you want that par is just meaningless number and it doesn't matter what it is, and like sort of that's true, but there are levels of expectations. We've talked about this. I'm not going to beat the horse. In my opinion, Europe needs to step it up and like recognize that part of the problem may be the fact that they're asking women to play these courses that are the MPO courses. Like, well, oh, we don't have any women playing in our tournaments. Well, maybe that's because you put the women on courses that are totally inappropriate for them. And they're like, wow, I just took double bogeys all round. This sucks. Yeah, that's how you would feel too if you got double bogeys every round. Some of you out there do get double bogeys every round, and it's probably not that fun. I know it's not. So I think like, okay, it's a weak excuse to say that this is just how Europe does it. Maybe that's how they've done it in the past, but it's now 2022, and we know what a great FPO course can look like, and it's time for everybody to step up. And I hope that we see them step up next year.
Yeah, and I hope definitely not an excuse. I think more of a lack of catalyst is probably the best explainer. When that's how it's been done. I think that doesn't justify. It explains why there's been that lack of pressure moving forward. But if the European Open is going to stay at the top of the stage as a major and hold that prestige, it's going to have to make some changes.
All right, here we go. This one comes from Brett. Anyone outside of disc golf that was to see the Nico clip, which really went more viral than anything else from the tournament, just saw what looked like a hippie in a tie-dye shirt yelling at another dude. Don't get me wrong. I love that I can play disc golf in a collarless dry fit and basketball shorts. But if this is going to be a professional sport, the athletes need to at least dress like it, even when they aren't acting like it. Your thoughts? Josh, you want to go? I guess you answer the last one first, so I can go first if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't care. I mean, I don't care what they wear. Like, that to me just doesn't matter that much. Like, if Nico wants to wear his tie-dye, I don't care. I wouldn't feel any differently about this whole scenario if Nico was wearing a tuxedo. Okay? If Nico was wearing a tuxedo and he got in the official's face, I would feel the same way I do now. Is there, like, professionalism issues in disc golf? I mean, not really. Like, from a dress code standpoint, I really don't think it's that big of a problem. Like, the people who just show up looking like totally sloppy, that's mostly gone. I mean, people, like, sponsors expect you to wear like a professional looking outfit, and that takes different forms, but I really don't think this is that big of a deal. I don't think we need to have, Wimbledon whites out there on the disc golf course.
I think my biggest point is, at least at this stage, maybe in the future that'll change, but at least at this stage, I don't think there's any way you can quantitatively, put to me that disc golf is like not growing as fast as it would, or not bringing in the purses that it would, because our players are wearing dry fit, non-collared shirts. Maybe that'll change. Maybe one day there will be sponsors, and outside sponsors will come in and they'll tell their players that, hey, we want you in these colors and we want you in this style of dress, and it's going to look very professional. But at this point, I don't see a driving need for it in terms of financial reasons. And at that point, I'm with you that I don't feel particularly invested in it as a result. Next question. This is something that Nate Heinold brings up in the interview, but we're going to talk about it a little bit early. Just wanted to mention, this comes from Chris, just wanted to mention that the European Open didn't charge anything for spectating either the President's Cup or the European Open event itself, whereas other majors certainly do. And I would have to assume this affects purse size. I would also think this have to have a more positive effect on the crowd sizes at the European Open, as compared to other. Oh my god!
How many people are in the European Union? I'm not even going to hazard a guess.
Is it 700 million,
stop.
Charlie?
Continue. Just go on.
Had a more positive effect on the crowd sizes at the European Open as compared to the other US-based majors that all do charge for tickets. I would have to assume that at future European Opens, they would consider charging admission, but that may be tricky because it's not a private venue.
Well, one can assume. I studied economics in college. It's easy enough for everybody to understand that, like, if something is free, more people will do it or take advantage of it or use it or whatever. But I'm a little bit skeptical because there are situations where having a price on something creates a sense of value in the product that isn't there if it's free or if it's priced too low. You know, if somebody came up to you and said, I'll sell you this new car for $25, you know, you're going to be like, this is not a functioning car. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Now, this is a stupid example, but like, would the European Open really have crowd sizes be way lower if they charged a modest entry fee? I mean, there's some price point where you're going to push people away, certainly. But I'm a little skeptical that this is a major factor. Like, looking at the crowds coming out of the United States, looking at the crowds that came out to the European Open in the past, like, we're seeing people showing a willingness to pay and feeling like, you know, buying a ticket is like a cool thing to do, that it's something that they're totally willing to pay for. So I mean, I think it's possible, you know, but here's the other thing, okay? Worlds and many, many, many other disc golf tournaments did not charge admission more than like 2 years ago, okay? In 2019, I've told the story many times. I walked onto the course and there was no security and there was nobody asking me for credentials or accreditation or asking me for money. I just walked onto the course like I was walking into a public park, like by my house. Okay. This was not long ago. This was like 2 years ago. And there weren't that many people there. There were just not that many people there. This is in Peoria. There weren't that many people there. There were not 5,500 people there. I don't think this is the as big of a factor as people may make it out to be. I wouldn't be surprised if they had equal or possibly greater numbers if they were selling tickets. I know that sounds counterintuitive, and it certainly is, and I could be wrong. But I think that, like, people want to feel like they want to buy a thing that makes it feel valuable, and selling a ticket helps do that. I'm also not really I want to ask you, C, next time we get the chance, why don't you charge admission for the European Open? 5,500 people, charge them €10. That's a lot of money.
You know, Charlie, every time you tell that story about Peoria, the listeners are just going to go, oh,
here he goes
Charlie
again. I'm going to be telling it in 10 years.
Tell that story.
Now, back in 2018, it's like 2035. Yeah, I'm sorry to beat the horse, but like,
okay, Gramps.
I understand. There's just like, people don't realize that, like, we haven't been selling tickets to disc golf tournaments for very long. It's been like a year.
Yeah.
Like, there was 2019, then there was COVID, then they started selling tickets to disc golf tournaments. That's basically how it's gone down.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing I want to add to it, and maybe this goes back to value, I'm about to make a lot of Baltimore fans unhappy. Well, all 4 Baltimore fans unhappy. A couple years ago, the Orioles started giving away their tickets for free because they couldn't get enough people to buy tickets to go to baseball games. So they had a season where they literally just gave their tickets out. Like, you just could go to an Orioles game without paying a thing. I mean, I will say that that's another... When you go to the movies, when you go to an Orioles game, when you go to other moderately priced events, a lot of times the revenue stream isn't from admissions tickets, it's from concessions. And I think that's a very viable model. I don't know what that looked like at the European Open. There may have been tons of concessions, or may not have been, I don't know. But I think it's a very viable revenue model to say, we're going to bring in 5,000 people for free. We're going to market like crazy to get food and drink and other vendors, and then we're just going to take a 10% cut on all their profits. And that's a very legitimate way and revenue source to take that money without necessarily it's having to charge admission and deal with the headache of tracking, spectators and getting fences up and gates and et cetera, et cetera. So that's just a second point that I'd like to make, that just because they don't charge admission does not mean that this model is broken.
No, I mean, I don't think it's broken. I think it's perfectly a fine option if they think that's the right thing. Because keep in mind, this is a massive marketing vehicle for Discmania. I mean, if nothing else. So, speaking of Discmania,
we got another email from Charlie.
I'll read it for you. Brent asks, now that we are halfway through the season, can we evaluate which sponsors are winners and losers? For starters, Discmania might be the luckiest sponsor on the MPO side. The year starts for them with Eagles' injury and Kyle Klein starting slow, and then just in time, Simon comes out of nowhere, winning Disc Golf Pro Tour events. Then at their flagship event, the European Open, Simon doesn't perform, but Eagle makes a miraculous return and wins. If you're Discmania, you've got to be feeling good about this. Now imagine if Kyle Klein takes down DGLO in his home state. Very plausible given the jet-lagged European crowd coming back. Either way, what a story for Discmania this season. Do you chalk Discmania up as winners, Josh?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we can do more analysis on other sponsorships, but the reason I picked this email and like it is because I think it's really pertinent to the European Open. Not only have they had a good performance, I think, by any manufacturer standards, and we need to take a look at that Manufacturer Cup update, but the way in which it's been done and with the players who it's been done by are just so significant. Because let's compare another move, for example, with Discraft, with Chris Dickerson, right? Chris Dickerson plays great, has a good season. You got to be thrilled with him over at Discraft. Has the major, but Chris Dickerson, doesn't move plastic the same way that Eagle and Simon do. And look, Kyle Klein could have come out and had a great season and done really, really well, and that would have been great. But the two, after probably Paul and maybe Ricky, but I'm not even convinced of that, the two people who are going to move plastic better than anybody else in this world are Eagle and Simon, especially doing it as a pair. So yeah, Discmania is the best winner of this season. I don't care what happens the rest of the season. I would love to see sales numbers because I think they have to be phenomenal thanks to Eagle and Simon.
You got to be honest. It's super lucky. Simon was not playing at an elite level for multiple seasons. Eagle was hurt, and Kyle Klein was terrible to start the year. And you're looking around and you're going, well, where's the win's going to come from? And then now Simon's a podium candidate and Eagle comes back and wins a major at the European Open where he's walking around looking like, the Beatles in their prime. People are going crazy. There's the pictures are insane. People are adoring Eagle, and they probably would anyway because he's the flagship Discmania guy. And then yet he not only that, but he wins it at playing maybe the best disc golf we've seen in the whole season. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's a huge W. And obviously Ella Hansen has been a total coup for Discmania, even as they largely have not invested at all in the FPO side of the game. But they sign Ella Hansen, who's been the best new player on tour in the last 3, 4, 5 years, probably. Is knocking on the door of winning an Elite Series event. Might win one. Maybe she'll.
Valerie.
Okay. Is she new? New player on tour? I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
As of 5 years, the 3 to 5 years mark, definitely.
Valerie came up as a youth player, so it wasn't really in my brain because I was Ella's a new player to the sport, but I will give it to you.
Brand new player to the sport.
I think Ella Valerie's a huge W for DD. I think that's been an offsetting win for DD, given the sort of embarrassingly large contract that Kona has right now. So, then with Ricky, that was a slam dunk move. I don't think that's,
sure.
That's just that's like signing the best baseball player. It's obviously it's going to go well. Maybe you'll look back in 4 or 5 years and be like, well, we overpaid, but does it matter? It gave DD relevance again. Didi had a whole press conference with people coming in on choppers. Okay, like they're doing fine. Who are losers? I struggle to find that. I feel like a lot of players are having good seasons for various manufacturers. And like, you know, a lot of people looked at Prodigy at the beginning of the year and they're like, wow, disaster for Prodigy. And like, do you really feel that way though?
No.
Like the way that Gannon Burr is playing right now?
No.
Isaac Robinson winning a tournament?
Robinson.
Yeah.
No. I honestly, the only loser that I can think of on the MPO side has to be Innova.
Sure. But they're so deep.
They've
and
had
Hayley.
They're so deep, and a stellar FPO team. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like we talked about the damage to Innova, and we're like, oh well, the Europeans and Hayley will salvage it. But then you have Own and you have Maria Oliva, and I mean, just some incredible players on the FPO side that Innova doesn't feel. I'm with you that I struggle to find a loser in this offseason. The only one the only other one maybe is MVP, but we talked about how the fact they don't really need to sign anybody because their plastic is just still selling like hotcakes. So I'm with you. I really, really do struggle to find a loser.
Okay, I have a question for you. This isn't the mailbag, but I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
And then we can get to this last mailbag question. What's the best under the radar story from European Open? Because we obviously focused a lot on the top of MPO and what happened with Paige and Evelina. But we didn't really dig deeper last week. And it sort of felt like an afterthought, a lot of that. But like when you look through the top 10s or what happened at the tournament, like what stands out?
That's a tough one. I think the biggest thing to me is that inside the top 11, 6 of those players were Europeans in MPO. And then, I mean, FPO, if you want to say top, I don't know how far you want to go down there. Probably, if we say top 8, 4 were Europeans. You could also cut off at top 4. I mean, how you cut is kind of weird because of the disparity in scores. It slides fast, but it's kind of a continual slide, so it's really weird and hard to do. But say top 8. I mean, do top 10 FPO women, and 6 of them are Europeans.
Yeah, not
as many came over, and that's the case for MPO as well. Yeah, in the FPO side especially. But on MPO, I mean, look at some of those names that got beat out. Ricky, Ezra, Simon. Well, Simon's European. Shoot, that's dumb. James, Greg Barsby, Jeremy Colling. I mean, major winning players were outside of the top 20 even. And, there are MPO European players. And look, they weren't anywhere close to winning. And I don't know when they will be close to winning. But there are some really, really strong European players that I am excited for them to have a couple years of tour.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
What about you?
Kevin Jones starting to show some life is a really good sign. I don't know if that's quite under the radar. I mean, he finished 3rd. You said one of the things that immediately popped out to me, which is that, you had a bunch of guys, including some, Nicholas Antila, 4th, right? He was a top finishing European player. Vino Makala, these are names we know. But then Christian Quoksa, a name that we've talked about on the show, but I don't think is like a household name yet. I mean, he finished tied for 8th. Somebody that you need to keep an eye on, up and coming, very talented Finnish player. I think that, the Kevin starting to get a rhythm on top of being consistently good enough to be up at the top of the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings, that to me is an encouraging sign. On the FPO side, I think that probably the story is that Cap Merch continues to be super relevant and finished top 5, and I obviously had the lead after round 1, and something that still to consider this, right? We talked about it midway through the tournament. She was dealing with all the Nico stuff. Now, we don't know to what extent. We don't know what those conversations were like, what that was all about. But, for her to still finish fifth and to have some good rounds along the way, really solid. Really, really solid, right? Beat out some very good players to finish in that spot. So I think that Kat Mertsch continues to be sort of a really great story from 2022 overall. All right, I got one more in the mailbag for you. Weston says, purses are climbing slowly all throughout the disc golf world. What do you think it would take for the purses of any given event to double? What are we missing that motivates a potential sponsor to contribute a much larger amount than we have seen so far?
I'm going to argue a little bit with the premise of this question. I think that the idea that purses are climbing slowly, maybe they're climbing slowly this season, but back in 2019 when I was at Worlds, walking the fields of Peoria, I
just walked right in. I don't know what to tell you.
Purses were not that big 2-3 years ago. They have jumped significantly. And so I think that being, but I understand the premise of the question, right? Is what is it going to take to get that one sponsor? I think there were some big gains made at the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship last year with some big name sponsors that pushed the purse up to levels that we'd never seen. I think the biggest point that I would make, though, in this idea of what are we missing to motivate a potential sponsor, it's viewership numbers. You need to get more eyes on the sport. You need to get more people who are subscribed and concurrently watching to Disc Golf Network or their free rounds on YouTube. And if that number was triple or quadruple what it was or what it is now, then your purses would probably triple or quadruple what they are now. The sponsorship numbers are very largely, I think, going to, and for a long time, be a reflection of viewership numbers. The sponsors that you get preliminarily, right, the financing of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, for example, those come from really wealthy people who enjoy the sport and think that there's potential. But most sponsors are going to want to see that data before they invest, $500,000 up front.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to say, please send us your mailbag questions on these topics or anything else. Upshot at ultiworld.com is a way to get in touch with us. And we hope you become a subscriber for less than $4 a month over at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. And you can join our Discord where we have great conversations about disc golf all day, every day, and especially during the big tournaments. You catch our live reaction shows as well as a part of our Upshot bonus segment series. Coming up next, Nate Heinold joins us to talk DGLO, Ledgestone, PDGA, and more. Don't go anywhere. It's the Upshot.
The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, if you're looking for the biggest and baddest pound bag that there is, go check out the fresh Octohaul colorways on the website, including neon green, purple, Cryptek Raid, and Typhon hauls. You can get 18 to 20 discs in the main compartment, 4 to 5 putters up top, and additionally 4 to 6 discs in each haul pocket. Plenty of space for all of your things, snacks, water bottles, etc. And it's really just about how you like to build your bag. So get yourself a deluxe Octohaul today at pounddiscgolf.com.
Joining us now on the Upshot is Nate Heinold. He's the president of the board of directors for the PDGA. He's also the TD for this weekend's Great Lakes Open, as well as the Ledgestone Open coming up in just a couple of weeks. Nate, always great to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you, Charlie. Good to see both of you.
Good to see you as well, and we appreciate you making time. It's Thursday evening. You have a tournament to run tomorrow, so we'll keep it as brief as we can. First and foremost, how's everything looking for DGLO? It's an interesting timing again this year, coming out the tail, right off the tail of the European swing, which we haven't had, of course, since 2019.
Yeah, I mean, we ran, Junior Master Worlds here, ended, 11, 12 days ago. A lot of the pros have been over in Europe. We've had several drop, because of just either still being over there or being tired. And then they have to come play the toboggan course, which with the changes is even longer than last year. The benefit we have is the weather has just been phenomenal. It's not been hot. There's been a breeze. It makes it easier to walk up and down those hills. So we're ready to go. The course is looking just, awesome.
Who are some of those notable drops that you've seen over the past couple of days?
I know Greg Barsby dropped. I know Matt Oram just dropped within the last few hours, though that was for other reasons. But, I'm going to draw a blank, but there have been at least 10 drops, to be honest. So just from people who are in Europe. I know Macbeth, obviously, he's here. Ricky's here. So there were still plenty that didn't drop. Simon's here, which is great. And Calvin. And so I think Conrad dropped. So right there, a few big names that between Conrad, Greg, and Matt that are not playing. So, and obviously Eagle is not here as well.
What a crazy week for Eagle. I mean, as a fan of disc golf, Nate, what were your thoughts on how everything unfolded at the European Open?
Yeah, I haven't watched post-production disc golf in honestly a couple of years. But when I do watch, surprisingly, I will watch live. Even though I don't have time, I'll have it on the background. But I was captivated by the coverage, more so on the MPO side because I obviously couldn't get up early enough to watch the women. But I would have loved to watch them because that was a great battle. But it was one of the greatest battles I've ever witnessed. I probably watched a majority of it. And you could tell after round one that it was really going to be the both of them. Like, the courses fit both of them well, and both of them deserved to win. Just like last year at Pro Worlds, James deserved to win, and so did Macbeth. In this case, both Macbeth and Eagle deserved to win. They both played insane. That course, even though it's 9,200 feet, it's super hard, and they basically made it look like they were just throwing darts. And Eagle, did not throw a sidearm with being one of the best sidearm players and win. I honestly didn't even know he was playing. I thought he was done. He had just dropped DGLO right before this, and I thought Paul could, this is his course. He has a good chance to win. And then I saw Eagle playing, and I thought, well, he can't win. He hasn't played, and so to see him win was an incredible story. Great for Discmania, great for UC, and even the battle, I could tell it reinvigorated Paul. You could kind of see he was. He wanted to win it, and so did Eagle, and it meant a lot to him. So,
coming up for DGLO, are you at all frustrated or foresee a possible change to the timing of DGLO? Because, with the trip from Europe and the European swing followed by Ledgestone, which I think is one of the most important events that isn't a major of the season, it always feels like DGLO just kind of gets sandwiched and wedged in there. Is that something that's for you as a TD frustrating, or feel like you would like to see a little bit different moving forward?
Yeah, I don't control the schedule. I'm not going to complain about, where the event is on the schedule. A few years ago, DGLO was, I think, July. It was the third week. So I think it must have been the year where the European Open wasn't happening. And so the European Open hasn't been run since 2019. I think the plan is to run it next year. And so we'll kind of see how things fall with where that actually is for the European Open. But I wouldn't say it's frustrating because the majority of the players are here. I'm not hearing anybody complaining about jet lag or being tired. I think a lot of them were over there long enough to where they were coming back Monday, right? And so they were done. They were over there for Sula or whatever else. I know some players took a vacation, London, whatever. So I would say frustrating is not the right word. So.
All right. Well, I have some PDGA type questions. One thing that I noticed recently is that the 2024 bids went out for all of the various majors that are bid out by the organization, and not included on that list, which was notable, was Champions Cup. Now, we just saw this very successful first iteration of the tournament at WR Jackson a few months ago, and next year it's scheduled to be at Toboggan in place of DGLO, but now there's not on the bid list for 2024. So Why not? And what does that mean for what's happening with the Champions Cup?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're looking at that, and sometimes we don't always have the bid documents available at the same time for various majors, and so that's something that we're looking at, and I think we'll have some more news on that probably in the next 7 to 10 days.
Okay. I'll keep going because Josh is like,
I think you have a list, Charlie, that you want to give to PDGA.
But I have some topics that I want to get to. One of the interesting things, reading through these past few years, I read all the board minutes when the PDGA releases stuff on the website, and we went from in 2020, the organization furloughs like a large chunk of the staff and is like, obviously with the uncertainty of COVID and what that's going to mean for revenues, very scary time. Now that was relatively short-lived, thankfully. Staff came back on, IDGC gets running again, and obviously a lot of people start playing disc golf. And in that time, the assets and the cash position of the PDGA has gone from, $1 million, $2 million to now on the most recently released, May 10th and 11th Spring Summit minutes, the PDGA's total assets is almost $10 million. So we've seen an incredible amount of money flow into the PDGA. And I know the organization's been hiring a lot of people to sort of accommodate the growth in membership and the growth of the sport overall. But I'm really curious to hear, you're basically the person who is the primary agenda setter for what the PDGA's plan is as the head of the board of directors. So what do you do with this money? How do you allocate this money in a way that benefits not only the organization, of course, but also the sport as, the primary organization that sort of delivers disc golf events and ratings, et cetera, to not just the US, but the globe?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't go from 1 to 10. So that sounds really extreme, but to be fair to the PDGA, we didn't make $9 million in 2 years, obviously. And so the asset count was much higher than 1 million. And what you listed there it is accurate from our public disclosure form. Yeah. But certainly, yes, we have, it is better to have more reserves in the bank than less. And so with COVID brought additional members, and we can't spend it fast enough right now, but we're hiring right now. We posted for more positions. We've doubled the organization in terms of the employee count, but at the end of the day, we can't hire fast enough, to be honest. We pay competitive wages. We don't want people to get burnt out, so we're hiring more event support people. We've grown astronomically in terms of the number of sanctioned events, but that means new TDs, and new TDs need a lot of help. They need help with just submitting the TD report and doing things on the back end, and so that takes time. I mean, right now our event support staff is answering phone calls 7 days a week, right? They're, especially on the weekends, I mean, that's when people are supposed to have time off, and they're answering those calls. We're hiring technology people. We're hiring people for the road. We're creating new avenues to grow the sport around the world, and we're supporting organizations like Edge and the Paul Macbeth Foundation. But people think that stuff is cheap, and ratings are not cheap, and the technology platforms, the scoring app, and all of those things cost money. Growing disc golf overseas, running a major. The PDGA sent 20 people to Peoria for Junior Master Worlds for anywhere from 14 to 7 days. So just do the math on that in terms of the support that we're giving for our World Championships. And that event had 1% of our members, which that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot of our members together in one spot that we want to support. So we are not sitting here trying to make a profit. We're trying to find ways to, further the growth of the sport and kind of enhance, our mission and move things forward.
I understand a little bit some of the defensiveness and the answer there, but I actually am not trying to imply that you guys are raking in
Yeah,
a bunch
yeah.
of dough, and then you're sitting around like swimming around like, you know, Scrooge McDuck in the cash. That's not at all what I'm implying. I'm actually just very curious for like where you see the direction of the PDGA going in, because there's been a divestment in some ways from the elite side of the game, passing the national tour over essentially to the DGPT. That's a major strategic decision. Where do you go now? And I know that you just started to plot out like a strategic plan for the next few years. What's that conversation been like? And where does the PDGA need to go now that we're sort of normalizing back to, theoretically, a more steady sense of growth rather than hockey stick style growth?
Yeah, we just had our spring summit in the bluegrass state of Kentucky. We set, I believe, 7 strategic priorities kind of for the next path, the next kind of few years for the PDGA. Obviously, our biggest priority is getting competition opportunities, getting more of those for our members, whether it's leagues, more events, higher quality events, that kind of, along those paths, because the most common complaint we get is as a member, I can't play enough events because they're filling fast or there are not enough events. And, as we've seen this hockey stick spike in membership, we haven't quite seen the same pattern with events. Even though events have gone way up and TDs have gone up, it hasn't been enough to sustain the demand. And so certainly we're looking at, more competition opportunities, but also one of those strategic priorities is growing internationally. And that's super expensive. How do we find the next Finland? How do we find the next Japan from, 20 years ago? How do we find that opportunity? And that's expensive. That may mean severely discounted membership rates, almost to, just where we lose money to get members in a different country, but we're supporting them. That may mean grants to put courses in. We're also looking at youth and education. What does that mean? Does it mean investing at the grassroots junior high level or very young kids or college? And so we're looking at all of that, and we hope to have a lot of those plans rolled out in the next 6 to 9 months.
One PDGA related question that I have, you probably don't have final numbers, but the voting turnout for the PDGA board of directors, have you seen more participation in this cycle of ballots? And, what are you excited or, optimistic about the way that went?
Yeah, I would say it's not been good.
No.
When I go vote for a presidential primary or a presidential election, we may see 50 to 60% participation, and I have to drive to a poll and wait. The PDGA has sent out 5 emails. It takes 30 seconds. I voted for somebody, and then I had a write-in candidate. It took me like 15 seconds, and I was done. So I would say I wish that more of our members were voting, because right now we're not seeing the participation that we want to see. And so if this interview comes out before July 31st, please go out and vote, because, you better believe that every day I get an email saying, Nate, you suck. You guys should be doing this. And I get the occasional, Nate, you're great, but not it's mostly the PDGA should be doing this and blah, but those people, we need them to vote, because that's how we see change is, getting people who are passionate for the board. Because, one of the things I chuckle about when I see online is these board members, man, the PDGA is making so much money. Man, those board members are making a killing. And it's like, wow, I'm waiting for that check still, because we all volunteer. Like, we don't get paid to be on the board. So we do it because we love the sport. So.
Well, Nate, there's going to be a lot of eyes on the PDGA over the next couple of weeks, because people want to know what's going to happen with Nico Castro. We talked about it on the show on Tuesday. He had a skirmish with a PDGA rules official on camera with live audio on the Disc Golf Network, and was disqualified from the event. And PDGA put out a press release that said he was going to be sent to the disciplinary committee for potential further action. How long does that process take? Where do we stand there, and what kind of expectation should there be for what happens in a situation like this?
Yeah, generally speaking, not specifically to Nico, but generally, a discipline complaint would come from somebody involved in the event after they submit the TD report. And so that may be the tournament director. It may be a PDGA official there. Obviously, there are other times when, somebody in, a group submits the report. But generally speaking, the complaint comes in, and then the committee goes through their process, and they will look at some very initial facts of the case to determine if they'll even review it. And so the committee then votes, and then if they vote in the affirmative, that triggers, yes, we're actually going to get statements and look at evidence. And so that's the process of, how that kind of the DC process works. And so right now they are evaluating, that.
So has it already been referred to the disciplinary committee then?
Yeah, there was a complaint submitted to the PDGA, and so that is in the discipline committee's hands. Yes.
Have they voted to formally review? Sorry, Charlie.
I can't speak on those kind of specifics, and so, yeah, we wouldn't be able to comment specifically on a case. But generally, if a member is accused of something, and the committee decides to look at that, they obviously want to give the accused the chance to respond. The accused does not have to respond, but they'll generally reach out via email, reach out again. Sometimes maybe there'll be a phone call, maybe they'll look for a read receipt, and then they'll request statements from other people. And so the process sometimes things go to spam. Sometimes, people just don't respond. We don't get all the information. And so obviously most cases when it's determined that they're reviewed, 1 to 3 weeks, but these are all volunteers as well. So the PDJ staff is not involved in the discipline process. The committee, and only one of those members is, public. The rest are actually confidential mainly for reasons of just well-being and safety. But the chair is public, and then the rest are private. But they're volunteers. They don't spend 30 hours a week on this, and so. But in certain cases, they'll obviously expedite things if they get the information they need quickly.
This is obviously a case that's going to be scrutinized publicly in a way that a lot of these kinds of cases wouldn't be. Nico's currently on the registration list for Ledgestone in a couple weeks. Is this the kind of thing we could see resolved by then? And will he be able to play in Ledgestone, to your understanding?
I'd be surprised. I think he put out a statement saying he was taking, a leave of absence. So he was signed up for DGLO. Obviously, we weren't sure what his plans were. And then, he did actually withdraw from DGLO. He contacted the PDGA and said he was withdrawing. So I would be surprised if he plays Ledgestone. He said he's taking a leave of absence. Ledgestone starts, I'm looking at the calendar, I think 2 weeks from today, actually. So I'd be surprised if he plays Ledgestone just based on his decision to take himself, off the tour.
The point of this kind of altercation was about a time violation called on Nico. And that has been a topic of contention among fans, listeners, members of the PDGA about what the best method for rules enforcement is, specifically regarding tour standards. Do you feel that there needs to be rules marshals, as was used in the case of the European Open? Do you feel like there are changes coming down the line in terms of self-governing in professional events? What do you see as the future for rules enforcement on the professional level?
Obviously self-governance is tough. You can't, if I, throw a bad shot, and shank it into the woods, and I know it's going to be 2 strokes to get back. Oh, I can, before you could call yourself for a foot fault, technically, right? Obviously we've fixed that because foot fault, you can't call a foot fault violation on yourself. So when you say self-governance, Obviously we want people to be honest, and if they are in the woods taking a stance they shouldn't take, we're not going to fix that problem, right? If we had a marshal on every card, the marshal can't go where every player is for every shot. That would slow things down too much. So in terms of self-governance, yes, we want the players to be honest. And I think almost all of them are. We want people to know the rules and to not need a marshal for every card. But obviously, that's not where we are. We don't have the financial resources to have a marshal on every card right now, right? And so I don't think we're going there. I think, ball golf doesn't even have that, right? I think, for the smaller events, they may have 3 or 4 of them on their roaming, but they don't even have, at the smaller events, marshals for every card. So I don't think that's in the future of disc golf.
Let's turn our attention back to DGLO and Ledgestone coming up here on the Pro Tour. What competition-wise, what should we know about? What kind of changes are there to the courses at across these 2 events? Northwoods Black, obviously, Toboggan coming up this weekend, Eureka. What should we know as fans?
Yeah, I'll start with the easy ones. Eureka and Sunset have no changes. So Eureka has really been, I'm not sure I've made a change there in 3 years, maybe longer. And so that's the one thing I like about Eureka, is that it makes it easy because I'm out of space. And so there's really nothing more I can do there in terms of I could tighten the ropes more. But Eureka is pretty much designed, and there's not much more room to go there. Northwood, we did make some changes in terms of not to the holes, but to some of the lines. I mean, our goal with Northwood is to cut round times down, to cut backups. And so we've made 2 of the par 5s easier for sure in terms of widening the fairways. We've cleaned out the rough. A lot of the wooded holes now have grass. And so we hope to see round times an hour or less at Northwood Black, maybe more. Toboggan has undergone 5 significant changes. 9, 10, and 11 are totally new holes. Those holes in the past, hole 9 was, you could coin flip if myself or Paul Macbeth would get a good score in that hole. It was throw a hyzer and see where it crashes in the trees. 10 and 11 were 80% pars, 20% birdies, almost nobody bogeyed it. So not a lot of scoring separation for that middle of the course. So we've dramatically changed 9, 10, and 11. I'm not sure they're harder, but they'll provide more scoring separation. We did back up hole 14's tee for the MPO about 100 feet. And so that hole before was a driver as hard as you can, wide open, and then kind of a mid-range up the hill. Now it's going to be driver. 800 feet uphill, it plays more like 900. And then 15 was a big backup hole last year, kind of a par 4.5. We kind of cut a whole new fairway per se on the right-hand side, so you'll be able to see some more aggressive shots. So we've heard rave reviews from the players. The course is playing very tough. Double digits would be a phenomenal score on the MPO side. FPO side, I think, 5, 6 under is going to be a good score, but the women will surprise me because somebody will probably shoot 7 or 8 under. So.
Hey, Charlie, I hear an over-under.
What was the hot round last year at Northwood?
Oh, man.
Toboggan or Northwood?
Oh, yeah, I'm getting all mixed up in the various courses right now.
Yeah, don't come on. I need to focus on which tournament I think I'm at Devo, not Ledgestone.
I thought you were a Devo too.
No,
so now
you're right.
That's the one I'm going with.
What was a hot score? So you think double digits at Toboggan would be a phenomenal score on MPO?
It was so windy. We had our play with the champs today, and they played 9 holes, and it was windy, and Toboggan is up those hills. That's going to be tough. But if somebody shoots 30 under on the MPO side, that's just going to be phenomenal. So I think last year, Josh, it sounds like is maybe looking it up, but 30 under is going to be a great score. So.
Last year you had, I think, 3 11s and a couple 10s. So probably 5 or 6 rounds that were under. I didn't exactly count, but there were a couple each round that had double digits under
And
par.
I think the FPO was like 21, 22 under because we have some pars that are different for them. And so I do think FPO winning score 17 to 20, but Kristen's not here, but Paige Paige is here and she got second last year. MPO, if somebody shoots 30, they're probably going to win just because right now I think getting 3 double digits in a row is going to win. But right now I think it takes 1065 average to win an Elite Series event. It doesn't take 1050 anymore. It takes a round up there for
Unless
sure.
you're Paul McBeth at the European Open.
So,
Wow.
one other consideration here, weather is supposed to be Friday, 80 degrees, 13 mile an hour wind, Saturday, 83, 6 mile an hour, 50% humidity, and Sunday, 8 mile an hour wind, 87 degrees, 45%
Sounds pretty primo to
humidity.
me. I mean, maybe a little windy early on Friday, but like that's
Yeah.
nice conditions.
Yeah.
Josh,
yeah.
we'll do the over under after.
So,
Go, just
Charlie,
give it to me now.
do you want-
Give it to me now. You know what I'm going
all
to do.
right. Okay, I'll give it to you now. Charlie, over under at 9.5 on the hot round.
I'm taking the over. I want to score better than 9.5, so 10, 11, something in there. It's gonna happen.
You score better. Okay,
I've learned the
10,
hard
11,
way not
okay.
to bet against these folks. I thought you were gonna make the number bigger.
I thought about it, but I'm going to be
do you
nice. I'm going
say,
to listen
Nate?
to
You
Nate
take
on this
over
one.
the
I'm going to
under
be
there.
nice to you, Charlie.
No, I think somebody will shoot an 11 or 12.
There it is.
Just because.
Oh,
Just because they can. They just throw so far, and they just throw through the wind. They're just so impressive to watch. So, and we may even see that on the FPO side. I mean, those women can crush. So,
When you watch some of the European Open, so you saw like this to me, like we've seen some reviews coming in from people who are there. You know, it's just incredibly professionally run event. They had almost, well, I think UC said 5,500 people there for the final round. How do you elevate the events that you run? I mean, you're doing this more and more. You're taking on more TDing, not only these DGPT events, but also the various PDGA majors for juniors, etc. How do you elevate your events, and like what kinds of steps are you going to take to try to do that?
yeah, I mean, UC killed it. So, I mean, for being away from the game, quote unquote, for 3 years in terms of running an event, I mean, that was just the catch cam on hole one, watching that that big screen, the spectators. Obviously he doesn't charge spectators, which is crazy to me, and so I do wonder, like for DGLO, I think we're already up to 2,500 on Sunday. And I think we're going to be at a U.S. record, I think, this Sunday for DGLO. If I didn't charge spectating, I think we could approach European Open levels. So, but I obviously, every good idea I've done for Ledgestone or DGLO or Worlds, I've stolen from somebody else. I built the massive stage for Ledgestone 8 years ago, but I stole that from watching the Masters my entire life, right? And the rope that I did at Eureka, I stole that idea from the USDGC, right? And so, the bridge hole or the water tower hole have been inspired by just other things that I've watched and, with landmarks that were iconic, So I took a lot from watching the European Open, and I have a lot of ideas for what I can do to step up my game to make sure that people say, wow, Ledgestone, DGLO, Champions Cup, Worlds, whatever it is, Nate is one of the best TDs. And I think UC proved that, he did an incredible job. And I have a full list in my phone of, stuff that I want to do at DGLO, Champions Cup, Ledgestone to continue to say, wow, this is for real.
So you're calling your shot. Record turnout for spectators this weekend for the U.S.?
So, yeah, I would just say that as I look at DGLO spectating versus other events, we have the benefit of having this area in Milford, which is, 45 minutes from Detroit. We have a lot of people here. It's a very established disc golf community, a lot of built-in fans, and that makes it easy to get, a lot of spectators, especially at a great spectating course like Toboggan, where you can see the disc fly so far with these hills. And so we're going to have a massive crowd this weekend.
Do you have final purse numbers for both DGLO and Ledgestone, as well as added cash?
I have ballparks. I can do the math, but Ledgestone's going to be, Ledgestone's going to be massive. We're going to have, I'm doing some quick paper math, but Ledgestone's probably 135,000, 80,000 of added cash probably. And DGLO, less players because we have one course. And so that cuts the purse down a little bit, but that's probably 80 to 85. So it's probably $45,000 of added cash. So the reason Ledgestone is so much higher is because we actually have two courses. So we can fit in more FPO and MPO players. And then Ledgestone just has a more natural built-in fundraising capability. So we're able to add, more cash, for that reason.
Got it. All right, Nate. Well, thanks for taking some time out of your schedule to talk with us, and we're looking forward to these next couple of events. Good luck.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Nate Heinold with us here on The Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Upshot. Thanks to Nate for stopping by in the middle of a busy stretch as he gets ready for the beginning of DGLO. Josh, we were talking about purses earlier and what's it going to take for purses to double? Well, the DGLO purse in 2019 was $44,000. And what did Nate say is going to be? 80K?
80K, yep.
There's
your
your
double.
double. It's been 3 years. It's happening.
Yeah.
Are we going to double again from here in 3 years? I don't think so, but
that would be an exceptional pace.
That would be crazy. But you know what? Things are moving so fast in disc golf, it's hard to know where we're going to be in a year's time.
It's true.
All right, it's time to get to a little discussion of DGLO. Toboggan. Josh, how do you feel about Toboggan? This is a very interesting course, one of the most physical elevation change focused courses that I think we have on tour. And it's long been just a super hard, challenging track where you have a lot of people getting to circle 2 and needing to hit long putts. You have to have elite distance, and it sounds like that's only going to be more true this year. Are you a fan of the Toboggan layout?
I think it's Nate hit this on the head. It's good, not my favorite, but one of the things I really like about it is I think it sets up really well for viewership. The hills, the elevation changes, it means that you're able to see entire flights because uphill holes play longer than they actually are, which means it's easier to catch an entire flight of a disc. And the downhill holes offer long opportunities of viewership before having to move to a catch cam, and the lines are pretty easy to see. I really enjoy a lot of the things viewership-wise about this course. And it has holes that, for being a tournament that is always in kind of a weird spot on the schedule, it has holes that are really, really well known. There are a lot of, I know there's a distance YouTube video that's super popular that's done on one of the DGLO holes. It's that uphill one that I think Nate was referencing. But it gives the opportunity for some players to really stretch their distance in a way that is exciting. I don't think you have a lot of opportunities like this one where it is really asking you to throw full shot, full power distance driver, and as long as you hit a 20-yard fairway, you're golden. And the opportunity to see some of those shots, I think, are exciting. I obviously don't get to feel the physical demands, but I appreciate that there are courses that do kind of put those physical constraints and demands on players. And that's one thing that I think has always been unique about DGLO.
I'm going to go out there and take my bag with me, spectate. No, neither.
Real quick.
Okay.
I want to clarify. We got an email from someone who's like, I hope this means I don't get to listen to the show anymore. I bring my bag in order to carry snacks and stuff. That's fine. Bring a backpack for snacks and waters and even a couple discs to sign. It's the people who carry 25 discs in their bag that I don't understand.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm not going to belabor this point too much.
Neither champion from 2021 is back to defend their title. Eagle wanted an MPO. Kristen Tatar wanted an FPO. I would say both are out with an injury, but is that true? what do we do with Eagle right now? I mean, he's hurt, but he's not that hurt to play the way that he just did. Obviously, hope he gets back to 100%, and we won't see him again likely until Worlds at the end of August, and then in October for USDGC. Kristen Tatar's timetable for return at this point is unknown, I would say. But certainly a lot of players in the field, even though Nate mentioned a good handful have dropped. That's no surprise. But you're still seeing the flagship Discraft players here. So Paul is going to play, Paige, Chris Dickerson. It's a strong field. You know, we're going to see some of the players who had a really great year last year. Kyle Klein was fantastic. Corey Ellis and, Kevin Jones. I'm excited to see how he plays after the really strong performance that he had out in Europe. So I think that, we're back on the Pro Tour. Time to everybody kick off the jet lag, and we kind of get back into the swing of things stateside as we now are under a month away from the World Championships.
Can Kyle Klein win wearing Eagle's shirt if Eagle isn't there?
Does anybody hear
Eagle said
tree fall in the woods?
So you're saying Kyle has to win from like chase card. He can't be on lead card coverage.
Yeah, in fact,
as long as Eagle doesn't see
there can't be any cameras on him. Period. He can win, but as long as there's no cameras.
Okay,
it's like the uncertainty principle, right? If you know where Kyle Klein is on the course, he won't play well. But if you don't, then he's going to be on fire.
That's right. The one other thing, I mean, you can't talk about Toboggan, you can't talk about DGLO without talking about Paul's 18 under round back in 2018. Just a round that is one of those that is always going to be talked about. It means, and Paul has been a dominant winner, winning 2018, 2019, and I believe was a stroke behind Eagle in 2020. Actually, I think Eagle beat Ricky by a stroke in 2020, but Paul was in the mix. He's really good here. I think part of it being a part of Discraft is a big deal now, and that's one of the reasons that I think you're seeing the top Discraft players, as you mentioned. On the FPO side, it's been, Paige lost to Kristen by 1 in 2021, but Paige hasn't lost since 2019 then. After that, Sarah winning in 2018, but no Paige or Katrina present at that event. So it's a course that really rewards distance, as you mentioned, and favors top players and expecting those players to rise to the top.
All right, well, it's time to get to our picks for the week, and let's dive right in. I'll go first this time. I think I've had Josh go first the past few times. In FPO, in the third spot, I'm going to go with Valerie Mondahano. Didn't get to see her over in Europe, but don't forget about Val. She's been
Good
on
pick.
fire, and I think that I really feel comfortable picking her basically on any course at this point. I think she's become one of the best, most well-rounded players on tour. Mm-hmm. In second place, I've got Hayley King. So glad to see Hayley King back at an event. Of course, we saw her win at U.S. Women's. This is the last time we saw her play. Didn't go to Europe, but I think this course suits her extremely well. She's played here. I think she was top 3 here last year. And but in the first place, I got to take Paige Pierce. I mean, besides Kristen, Paige, was a shot back last year and blew everybody else away. And I just don't see any reason to pick otherwise. Like, Paige maybe is going to be... You can come up with some justification as to why she's not going to be that focused this week because it's post a major, whatever, blah blah blah. Yes, but I think again there's just certain courses where it's like, okay, yeah, Paige is, but besides Kristen and maybe Katrina, it's just like Paige is going to have a massive advantage, and I think this is one of them.
Courses for courses. Yep. In my third spot, I have Katrina Allen. I think this might be a good opportunity for her to shake it off. I mean, she took 4th at European Open. I think she probably would have expected or hoped to do better. A poor final round allowed Henna to slide up into the last podium slot. And while I think Valerie and Hayley are both great picks, I really feel like Katrina is going to be looking to come back and have a good performance this weekend. My second slot, I've got Ella Hansen. Speaking of people not to forget about who didn't go to Europe, Ella's distance has been incredible, and she's only been improving this course. She's performed well here. I remember she was on coverage last year. I don't remember where she finished, But we've seen Ella play well here in the past, and I really like her for this course. It does reward circle 2 putting, so we're going to see how her circle 2 putting is. I'm not seeing her. Maybe it wasn't last year.
Couldn't have been last year
know.
because she wasn't
Anyway.
playing it last year.
Okay, well, maybe I don't know who I'm thinking of then. I'm excited for Ella this year, though. And even though she wasn't here last year, I really think she's going to do well. I also have Paige to win it, though. You hit the nail on the head that when you have a course that just favors distance in this way, and the fact that the only person who's been able to top Paige for the past 4 years has been Kristen, I think it's hard to think.
I think maybe you're thinking of Jonesboro. The only reason I say that is because I find these courses to be somewhat reminiscent of one another.
Maybe.
Ella's never played Great Lakes Open, so just go ahead and take that fat mulligan right now.
I'll take the hard mulligan, but I will take the point as well when she takes second place.
All right, go ahead with MPO. Who you got?
Okay, all right. An MPO. I have the third crush boy. It is Kyle Klein. I think it's his turn. He played well here last year, just barely losing out to Eagle. Not quite, I think, the season he's been hoping for, but he's been warming up and he's been improving, and I think that he's going to be able to do so as well here. Second place, I've got Chris Dickerson. It doesn't matter how long that guy is gone. He's always great, and I really like him for this pick this weekend. It's a course that I really do think, even though it does favor distance and it's important to have distance, it does still require a really well-rounded game, and circle 2 putts are heavily rewarded. And I mean, Mr. Dickerson's got just one of the most well-rounded games you're going to find in disc golf. But my winner, without Eagle here, I'm just not going to pick against him. I've got Paul McBeth. I disrespected him at Europe, and he showed up and performed. And I'm just not gonna do it on the sacred ground of the toboggan course.
All right. Well, I share 2 of your 3 picks in MPO. My third spot is my difference, which is Kevin Jones. Yeah, I mean, look, he's had success at the toboggan in the past. We've seen him almost win here. Mm-hmm. We all remember that. But I think that, he's in form right now, or he's coming into form right now. It's a great time to start hitting your stride. The Worlds is going to be really interesting, folks, because, we just watched how Paul and Eagle just played. Ricky's had so much success in Emporia in the past. And then we have a bunch of guys who kind of started the season slow or starting to find a rhythm. And that's going to make for very interesting major championship disc golf. And this is not a limited field like European Open is. Because let's be honest, not everybody goes. We know this. So Kevin Jones, I think, is on the path towards being relevant at the World Championships. And I think it starts this weekend. Or you could say it started at the European Open. Chris Dickerson is in my 2 spot. I don't, if you're worried about a hiatus from Chris Dickerson, he's already showed you that it doesn't matter. So I'm not worried about that. And then my 1 spot, I actually just changed this moments ago. I wasn't going to put him here, and I talked myself into it. I'm going with Kyle Klein.
Wow.
Is that crazy? Maybe. Maybe.
Yes.
But listen. If he was finishing terribly always leading up to this, I would agree that it's crazy. But he's not. Mm-hmm. He's starting to play better. He's heating up, and this is exactly the kind of course where he can go out and win. We watched him almost pull it off last year. But look at where he's at. Preserve, 3rd place. Idlewild, 3rd place. He's playing his best disc golf of the season right now. Just had some time off. Other people went to Europe and they're going to be sluggish. He's about to come out here and have a great chance to win. I can't take Paul McBeth this week. This is classic letdown spot. It's a classic letdown spot. He just poured insane energy into this crazy battle with Eagle, and you're telling me he's going to come out here, come back to the U.S., go to toboggan and be like, I'm going to go out here and he doesn't care about that. He's thinking about Worlds already. So I don't see it this week. I mean, maybe he'll prove me wrong. I mean, if he plays like he did at European Open, he's going to win, but I just don't think he's going to do that. So there it is.
All right, there it is. I will add, we are halfway through the season in terms of the over-under about Paul and Ricky winning a major, of which I took the under, and I am just feeling so confident about right now. And I don't know if I should after the way Paul played, but I do. I just feel so confident that they are just not going to win a major this season.
We are halfway there. 2 down,
Field's
2 to
good.
go. Worlds and
there.
USDGC still to come. And certainly more Upshot episodes still to come. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with you on Tuesday. And of course, we'll see you Sunday night for our Rapid React show following the Great Lakes Open. Looking forward to following along with all of the coverage. It's standard stuff for all of your coverage needs. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we will check back in on all of our point standings for picks, over-unders, etc. I'm on the better than 9.5 under par hot round MPO. Nate Heinold's with me. I'm feeling good at Toboggan. Josh set the line too low, and he knows it. He knows
it. It was too low. I know it. I know I'm about to
All right,
lose.
everybody. We'll talk to you Tuesday right here on the Upshot.